Hi, this is Regeline Sabat, also known as Gigi. You're listening to Walk With Me podcast. My guest today is Vladimir Adonis. Vladimir is a marketing expert. Welcome to the show, Vladimir.
All right. Thank you very much for the welcome, Gigi. Thanks for having me on the show.
You're welcome. It's an honor to have you here today. Now, why don't you start off by telling us more about you and where you are from?
Certainly. So I was born in the beautiful country of Haiti, and my parents, my mom specifically, decided to migrate here to the States when I was about 8 years old. I grew up in a small town called Belle Glade, Florida, and I am still residing in Florida. I'm living in Boynton Beach, Florida at the current moment. I started off as a couple of years ago. I started off many years ago, I should say. I started off as an employee, worked my way up to an executive level position. And at some point, I decided that employment wasn't necessarily ideal for me. I didn't want to be an employee for the rest of my life. So I went on to launch a dating site. And later, after launching a dating site, some things didn't work. We'll talk about what some of those things are. And later, learned how to do lead generation and marketing. And today, I do lead generation and marketing for the individuals that I help. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm sure you'll learn a little bit more as the show continues.
Yes. Now, what is your best marketing tip for people with their own business?
Yeah, certainly. So, one of my best marketing tips for people with their own businesses is to essentially lead with value. And I can go ahead and just give you an analogy that I had my dating site. So, back in 2015, I launched my very first business. It was a dating slash a dancing type of a website. And one of the first platforms that I tried to market my business on was Facebook. I went to Facebook and I told Facebook, hey, Facebook, I'm willing to pay you in exchange for you to help me to market and promote my dating site. And at that time, Facebook told me no. And the reason why Facebook told me no is that they were only allowed to work with a handful of dating sites, and they were not allowed to bring on any other dating sites because, from a contract standpoint, they were not allowed to. So one of the things that I later started to do, one of the things I later learned to do is to create what we call free resources and to create what we call free guides. And the first free guide I created for my dating site is I created a free guide for if an individual want to connect with a male on the dance floor, here's what you need to do to connect with a male on the dance floor. If an individual want to connect with a female on the dance floor, here's what to do to connect with a female on the dance floor. And when I created those two free guides, I went back to Facebook and I told Facebook, hey, I have these two free guides that I want to go ahead and promote and market. And that time around, Facebook told me yes. And the reason why they told me yes is because I was no longer promoting and marketing my dating site. I was simply leading with value. I was simply providing valuable information to their audiences. Not only did they tell me yes, the cost for me to acquire leads at that point reduced drastically. Uh, I was I was marketing on other platforms, and when I was marketing those other platforms, it was costing me about $20 to generate a lead. And when I went and I implemented the whole let me lead with resource, let me lead with free value, my cost to acquire a new lead went down drastically to about $2. So one of the best things I say to business owners is how can you lead with value? People will continue to consume resources, guides, and information, and that is a way for people to make micro commitments with you. And a portion of the individuals who consume resource and or free information from you will go ahead and take the next step with you. It's a very easy way for you to invite people into your world to know and learn a little bit more about you prior to making a bigger commitment with you. So that would be one of the best things and one of the best advices I would have from a marketing process standpoint.
Absolutely amazing. Now, what is your why that keeps you going?
So yeah, certainly that's an amazing question. So back in 2000, probably back in 2013, 2012, I want to say, one of the things that I noticed about myself is that I was being a hypocrite. And let me tell you the reason why. I have right now a 17-year-old and a 13-year-old. And one of the things I always say to them is I always say to them to work hard and to do hard things. But at some point, when I was working at my employment and my employer, I was no longer challenged. I was going to work every single day and I was meeting and exceeding all of my goals. And the job was simply very easy for me. So then I wasn't necessarily following my own advice. I was going to a job that, didn't necessarily challenge me, and it was very easy for me. So I said to myself, okay, I need to follow my own advice. I need to go ahead and do things that's a lot more challenging, and I need to go ahead and do things that's a lot more difficult. My job at the time did not offer that challenge, so I needed to go out and I needed to go ahead and create that level of challenge. And one of the best ways that I knew to do that was to go ahead and to start and launch my own, business. So one of my whys is the individuals that are watching me. And if I take a look at all of the people in the world that's watching me, right, the two people that watch me probably the closest, and the two people that I'm probably influencing the most are my two kids. And I want them to be able to say, okay, dad didn't just talk about it, right? He went out and he did it, and he actually followed his own advice. So that's one of my biggest whys. There's been times where I wanted to throw in the towel, but then again, I have to say, you know what, those two individuals are watching me, and what type of example am I going to set if I just say, hey, you know what, this is too hard, let me just throw in the towel.
I love it. Never give up. Very powerful. Now, what gives you the most joy and happiness?
One of the things that gives me the most joy and happiness is drinking coconut water right out of the coconut. I love, I don't know, that's just one of the best things in the world, to be, to be quite honest with you. I don't necessarily, yes, I would say that that's one of the things. That and just being around, family, and just being able to see progress. So coconut water, family, and just being able to see some type of a progress based on some things that I was working on. I don't necessarily always expect immediate gratification, but from a couple of months, so I review everything that I do in 90-day increments. And when I review those things in 90-day increments, I just like to be able to see some type of a progress. So those are the things that give me lots of joy.
I love it. Now, what is your best advice to the audience for walking with purpose and living a life of happiness?
Yeah, walking with purpose. Um, I think it starts off with you having to be, sometimes we have to be honest with ourselves. And oftentimes, and I'm going to put myself in this category, as well. Sometimes, we're not honest with ourselves. And I think if we are honest with ourselves, that's the beginning process of walking with purpose. If I take a look at business from a business standpoint, when I first launched my dating slash my dancing type of a website, I thought that that business was going to essentially just blow up. To be honest with you, I thought, within a year of me launching that business, I thought I was going to do so well financially that I wasn't going to even recognize myself. But that was not the case. That didn't happen. And the reason why that didn't happen is because I didn't have the proper marketing skills in order to be successful as an entrepreneur. So I could have done one of two things. One of the things I could have done is I could have said, you know what, it's really not a skill set problem. I really don't need lead generation. I really don't need marketing help. I'm going to just continue down that path and not face that challenge and not be honest with myself. Or I can say, you know what? This is my desire. I desire to have a successful business. And these are the real challenges that I'm having. Let me go ahead and face these challenges so that way I can start to live out my purpose. Oftentimes I was having a conversation with someone, not so long ago. Oftentimes, unfortunately, I have conversations with people who desire to launch. They say, hey, you know what, Vladimir, my plan is that in the next month or so, I'm going to be launching a business. Unfortunately, and in some instances, sometimes a year later, I have the conversation with the exact same person and they still have yet to launch. And the reason is not because that person is not talented, capable, skilled, but they're just not being honest with themselves. They're not evaluating their situation accurately to determine, okay, these are the mishaps, these are the things that I need to address. And once I address these things, I can go ahead and move forward. So one of the best ways to do that is we have to evaluate and we have to be honest with ourselves.
I love it. Thank you for being a guest on Walk With Me podcast. Now, where can the audience find you?
So the audience can definitely find me on a couple of different platforms. VladAdonis.com. I said you have that information up there. So that's one way people can take the next step with me. I'm on all of the social media networks, LinkedIn as Vladimir Adonis, Facebook as Vladimir Adonis, and then Instagram at Vladimir Adonis 3. Those are the places where people can connect and can find me.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure to check out Vladimir on all of his social media platforms. And also his website is VLADADONIS.com. And Vladimir, thank you again for being a guest on Walk With Me podcast. You have a great day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.